Hi learners, this is Teacher Will and welcome to our General Mathematics subject. For today's video, we will learn about exponential function. At the end of this discussion, you are expected to represent an exponential function through its graph and table of values. Find the domain and range of an exponential function and determines the intercepts, zeros, and asymptotes of an exponential function. Let's start! Ayan, so bago tayo magpatuloy, i-review lang muna natin yung definition ng exponential function. So sabi nga natin, an exponential function with base b is a function of the form f of x is equal to b raised to x, where b is greater than 0 and not equal to 1. And so let's say we have this exponential function and as well as this exponential function. Let's try to evaluate these functions when x is equal to 2. Let's say 2. Kung maaalala ninyo, kapag nag-evaluate tayo ng function, sinasubstitute lang po natin o pinapalitan lang natin lahat ng x na ating function ng assigned value. At in this case, ang assigned value natin is 2. L of 2. 2 raised to 2 minus 4. Ayan. So, yung x, pinalitan lang po ng 2. Then, simplify. So, we have now 2. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Ayan. So, ibig sabihin, ang f of 2 po natin is 2 raised to negative 2 or 1/4. How about this one? Ganun din, replace lang natin ang x ng ating function ng f of 2 is equal to 0.25. 3 raised to 2 minus 1 plus 5. So we have 0.25 times 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. Yeah, and plus 5. Now 3 raised to 1 is still 3. Then multiply it to 0.25. So the answer is 0.75. Yeah. Then plus 5. So ang f of 2 po natin is 5.75. So ganun lang po siya. We will use itong ating knowledge sa pag-evaluate ng functions sa paggawa naman ng o sa pag-represent ng exponential function through its table of values later on. Okay, so review lang din natin yung basic properties ng mga graph ng ating functions. Yan, so those include domain, range, y-intercept, x-intercept or the zeros, and the asymptotes. Yan. So pag sinabi nating domain, these are the set of values ng ating x. At kapag sinabi naman natin range, these are the values of our y. And yung y-intercept naman is the point of intersection of the graph of the function with our y-axis. And on the y-axis, ang x po natin is equal to 0. At ang x-intercept naman po, or the zeros, is the point of intersection of the graph of the function with the x-axis naman. And on the x-axis, ang y po natin is equal to 0 or the f of x is equal to 0. And yung asymptotes naman is, again, the lines that the graph of the function approaches but never touches. And so, meron tayong tinatawag na vertical asymptote and horizontal asymptote. Yan. So, let's proceed na sa ating exponential function. Paano po ba natin i-represent through its table of values and graph. Kayo din ay i-discuss din natin o i-describe din natin yung characteristics or yung properties ng graph ng ating exponential function. Yan. So, let's start. Yan. So, let's begin with the representation of exponential function through its table of values. Let's say, meron tayong exponential function f of x is equal to 2 raised to x minus 4. So let's construct a table of values representing this exponential function. Kapag sinabi natin table of values, it looks like this. Ayan. So we have set of values ng ating x. We will assign from negative 3 hanggang positive 3. Then, let's solve for the corresponding y of each value ng x natin dito. Okay? Yan. So, paano po yun? I-evaluate lang po natin yung ating function when x is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So, start na natin. F of negative 3 is equal to 2 raised to negative 3 minus 4. Replace lang po natin. We have now 2 raised to negative 7. Kasi negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. And negative 2 raised to negative 7. Applying yung ating negative exponent rule, we have 1 over 2 raised to 7. Or that is 1 over 120. 1 over 128 yung corresponding y ng ating negative 6. About naman, f of negative 2. So, ganun din, we have 2 raised to negative 2 minus 4. Solve natin, we have 2 raised to negative 6. Or, that is 1 over 2 raised to 6. At ang 2 raised to 6 ay 1 over 64. 1 over 64. Next naman, paano kung negative 1 naman daw? Negative 1. So, ganun din, we have 2 raised to negative 5. And that gives us 1 over 32. 1 over 32 yung corresponding y value ng ating negative 1. Next naman ay kapag 0. We have f of 0. 0 minus 4. So, that is negative 4. So, ibig sabihin, 2 raised to negative 4 is 1 over 16. So, 1 over 16 naman po. Next naman is 1. Pag 1 naman, so 1 minus 4 na po yun. So, ibig sabihin, 2 raised to negative 3. At ang 2 raised to negative 3 is 1. Then, next naman is kapag 2 daw. Kapag 2 naman, 2 minus 4 naman po siya. So, ibig sabihin, that is 2 raised to negative 2. At ang 2 raised to negative 2 is 1/4 naman. And lastly, yung ating 3. So, we have 3 minus 4. That is negative 1. 2 raised to negative 1, that is 1/2. So, 1/2 naman po. So, ito na po yung ating table of values that represents ang ating exponential function 2 raised to x minus 4. So, ganun na kadali gumawa ng table of values. Dapat alam nyo na kung mag-evaluate ng ating exponential function with values, with x values, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And so, let's proceed naman with the representation of exponential function through its graph. So, gamitin na rin po natin yung same na exponential function given kanina. 2 raised to x minus 4. So, ganun lang po. Siyempre, pag sinabi ng graph, it involves yung ating Cartesian plane. At, gamit ang table of values kanina na nagawa po natin, ay pwedeng-pwede na po natin ma-plot o ma-drawing po yung ating graph. Yan. So, unang step lang ay kailangan na po natin na i-plot itong mga ordered pairs. Yan. Itong mga ordered pairs ng ating table of values. Paano po yun? Kapag negative 3 daw po, ayan, let's say this is, lagyan po natin ng label para mas makita ninyo. We have 0, 0, then we have here negative 1, tapos dito naman ay negative 3. Dito rin po, we have positive 1, then positive 3. Ayan siya. Na? So, kapag daw po negative 3, 1 over 128. So, mga around sigurong dyan. Yan, yung na-plot na po na yan. Kapag negative 2 naman daw is 1 over 64. Yan. Kapag negative 1 naman daw, yan, 1 over 32. Yan. Kapag 0 is 1 over 16. Kapag 1 is 1/8. Kapag 2, we have 1/4. Then, kapag 3 naman is 1/2 or 0.5. Let's say, ito nga is 0.5. Okay. So, ganun lang mag-plot ng mga values using our table of values. Then, syempre, pag connect nyo lang po siya, connect nyo lahat ng na-plot nyong points. So, ito na yung graph ng ating function ng 2 raised to x times. So, ganun lang siya kasimple. And, syempre, kapag sinabi natin graph, may mga properties siya. Meron siyang domain, of course, meron din siyang range. We can identify yung ating x-intercept and y-intercept, then yung zeros, and also, meron din siyang, we can identify as well yung ating asymptotes. So, proceed po tayo dun. The graph of exponential function f of x is equal to b raised to x for b greater than 1, and for b is less than 1 or greater than 0, exhibits the following properties. Yan. So, ito daw yung properties ng ating exponential function. Basta ganito daw po yung form where b is greater than 1 or yung b natin is between 1 and 0. Yung domain daw natin is the set of all real numbers. So, kahit anong exponential function yan, always set of real numbers. Okay, din po, ang range natin is y greater than 0. So, lahat ng less than 0 is of course not included na po sa ating range. And yung y-intercept naman po natin is always at 0, 1. So, lagi pong 1 yung x point natin for the y-intercept. At, lagi po tayong walang x-intercept. Then, ang horizontal asymptote naman natin is the line y is equal to 0. Or yung x-axis natin. Sabi nga natin kanina, ang kasama lang po sa range natin is y greater than 0. So, hindi na po kasama yung below 0. So, ibig sabihin, kahit anong gawin po, hindi po siya dadaan sa y is equal to 0. Hindi na po siya lalabas po doon. At ganun din po, wala po tayong vertical asymptote kasi sabi nga po natin, ang domain po natin is all real numbers. So, lahat po is part of our graph. Let's have the first example. Yeah. So, let's sketch the graph of f of x is equal to 2 raised to x. Ayan. So, sabi po natin kanina, kapag graph po tayo ng exponential function, kailangan lang po natin i-plot yung ating mga ordered pairs na na-identify po natin sa ating table of values. Kaya, una po natin ay, nagagawin ay buuin ang ating table of values. Paano po yun? Let's evaluate lang po yung ating function when x is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, at 3. Yan. Pag f of negative 3 po, so ibig sabihin, 2 raised to negative 3 po yan. At ang 2 raised to negative 3 is equal sa ating 1 over 2 raised to 3. At ang 2 raised to 3 po is 8. So, 1, 8 po yung corresponding y value. At kapag naman, negative 2. Ganun din po. 2 raised to negative 2. Or that is 1 over 2 squared. Or 1/4. So, ganun lang siya. Kapag naman negative 1, ganun lang din po. 2 raised to negative 1. So, ibig sabihin, 1/2. Or 1 over 2 raised to 1. At ang 2 raised to 1 po is 2. Lang din po. Kaya 1/2 po ang negative 1. At kapag 0 naman po, f of 0, 2 raised to 0. At any numbers that is raised by 0 is equal to 1. So, 1 na po yan. So, we have f of 1. So, 2 raised to 1 na po yan. At any number raised to 1 is still the base. So, ito pa rin po. At kapag naman po f of 2, we have 2 raised to 2. At ang 2 raised to 2 po is 4 or 2 squared. Ganun din po, pag f of 3, we have 2 cubed. At ang 2 cubed po is 8. So, yan na po yung ating table of values. Since meron na tayong table of values, pwede na po natin i-construct o i-sketch po yung ating graph. Ano po yun? I-plot lang po natin, syempre, itong mga ordered pairs under our table of values. So, syempre, kailangan may Cartesian plane tayo dyan. We have the x-axis and the y-axis. Yan lang din po, ipa-plot. Kapag negative 3 daw po is 1, 8. Let's say, around dito po yun. At ganun, kapag negative 2 naman daw is 1/4. Siyempre, i-estimate nyo lang po, let's say dito yung banda yung 1/4. Ganun din kapag negative 1 is 1/5. Kapag 0 is 1, ayan, dito yung 1. Kapag 1 is 2, ito yung 2. Kapag 2 is 4, syempre yan, ano po yung 4. Then kapag 3 is 8, ayun po yung 8. So, ito na po yung ating, so connect po natin. Connect lang po natin. Ayan na po siya. So, ganyan yung magiging itsura. Kung i-describe natin yung behavior ng ating graph na 2 raised to x, it follows with these properties. Pakita po natin. Ayan. So, it exhibits the following properties. Wherein the domain of f of x is all real numbers. Yes po. Ang range niya po is greater than 0. Ang y-intercept niya po, ay sabi po natin, is 0, 1. Ang graph po natin is asymptotic to the x-axis or y is equal to 0 at wala po tayong x-intercept. So, hindi po siya tatama sa ating x-axis. At ganun din, as our x increases, our f of x increases exponentially. At ganun din po, kapag ang x natin decreases, the f of x decreases exponentially, would get closer and closer to 0, but it will never be equal to 0. Siya. So again, these properties will hold for other functions of the form f of x is equal to b raised to x, where our b is greater than 1. Okay. Let's have example number 2. Ano naman kung ang base po natin is between 1 and 0, let's say 1/2. Let's sketch the graph of g of x is equal to 1/2 raised to x. Yan. So, ganun lang din po. Unahin na po natin na mag-construct ng ating table of values. And kapag g of negative 3 natin, that will give us 1/2 raised to negative 3. And using negative exponent rule, we have to cube. So, magbabaliktad po siya, tama? So, we have now 8. So, kapag negative 3 is 8 naman. Pag negative 2 naman, ganun lang din po, 1/2 raised to negative 2. So, we have 2 squared. Kapag 2 squared po is 4. Kapag naman g of 1, we have 1/2 raised to negative 1 and negative 1 total. So, ngayon kakaroon tayo ng 2 raised to 1. Or simply 2. Kapag 0 naman, g of 0, we have 1/2 raised to 0. At any numbers raised by 0 is equal to 1. So, equal na po yan. Kapag naman po, g of 1, so equals to 1/2 raised to 1. So, any number syempre na raised by 1 is still equal sa ating base. So, 1/2 pa rin. At kapag g of 2 naman, equals to 1/2 raised to 2. Or that is 1 over 2 squared. Or that is 1/4. So, 1/4 na po. At ganun din, kapag g of 3, equal po yan sa 1/2 raised to 3. Or 1 over 2 cubed. Or that is 1 over 8. So, 1 over 8 naman po kapag 3. Since meron na po, kompleto na po ang ating table of values, we can now construct or sketch yung ating graph. Ayan. So, let's say we have this graph. Tingnan po natin ha. Kapag negative 3, actually, hindi napakita. Sige, pakita na lang natin dito. Wala na kasing 8 eh. Sige, ito na lang. Start tayo sa negative 2. Kapag negative 2 is 4 daw po. Ayan po siya. Kapag negative 1, 2 ang ating y. Kapag 0, 1 naman po. Ayan. Kapag 1 is 1/2. Kapag 2 is 1/4. Kapag 3 is 1/8. And so on. Ayan. So, pag dugtong-dugtongin lang po natin yung ating points. So, ganyan na yung magiging itsura ng ating graph. Ayan, hindi maayos ang ating line. Okay, let's say, ganyan na po yan. Kung mapapansin nyo, iba na yung itsura niya kumpara dun sa kanina. Yung kanina kasi, parang ganito po yung graph niya. Parang paganyan, no? Paganyan. So, ito naman, baliktad naman. Baliktad naman yung properties niya. So, ibig sabihin, these properties that hold 1/2 raised to x also hold for other function of the form b raised to x, wherein ang ating base is between 1 at 0. So, ganun din po ang domain, still all real numbers. Ang range po natin is still greater than 0. Ang y-intercept po natin still at 0, 1. At ang graph po natin still asymptotic with to the x-axis at wala pa rin tayong x-intercept. But, as x increases, ang g of x natin or the y decreases exponentially naman. Decreases naman po siya. Would get closer and closer to 0, but it will never be equal to 0. And din po, as the x decreases, our y or the g of x increases exponentially. So, kabalik na nung kanina na ang ating base greater than 1. Ayan. So, by definition of our exponential function, the most basic form of exponential function is in this form. Ayan. F of x is equal to b raised to x. So, dapat we have the base and we have the polynomial function sa ating exponent. Ayan. Wherein yung ating base is always greater than 0 and not equal to 1. Ayan. Natatransform din itong ating basic function to a different form. At yun po ay in this form. So, ganyan na siya. Na kung saan meron na tayong real number that is subtracted or added to our exponential function. At meron din tayong real number a na kung saan multiplied naman siya sa ating basic exponential function. Okay, so, ganun. At pag ganito na po yung transformation, may ibang properties din po siya. Let's see kung ano yung pagbabago ng properties kapag ganito na po yung transformation ng ating basic function. Yan. So, ganyan na po siya. Kapag daw po, nabago, no? Nabago. So, yung div natin kanina, naging h po siya. Yan. Let's say, ito po siya. Okay? So, it exhibits the following properties. Still, yung domain po natin, walang pinagkaiba. Set of all real numbers din po. So, nagbago lang po siya sa ating range. Na kung saan, kapag yung a daw po, ayan, nakabase dito sa a na to, is greater than 0, meaning po, ang ating range is y greater than h. Or, lahat ng values after h. Lahat ng values after h. Ganun din po kapag yung ating a, yung ating real number a is less than 0. So, ibig sabihin, ang range po naman natin are y less than h. So, lahat ng values before ng ating h. Then, yung y-intercept natin is computed when x is equal to 0. So, kailangan natin evaluate yung ating function at 0. And, ganun pa rin, there is no x-intercept. And there is no vertical asymptote. But we have the horizontal asymptote, which is the line y is equal to h. Let's have an example of an exponential function in this form. For example, 3, 4, and 5, let's consider yung mga transformation ng basic exponential function 3 raised to x. Let's find the domain, range, intercepts, and asymptotes. Start tayo sa example number 3. Describe the properties of the exponential function f of x is equal to 0.25 times yung base po natin na 3 with an exponent x minus 1 plus 5. Ayan. So, kung makapansin niyo po yung transformation ng ating base 3, ang ating 0.25 po dito is dA at yung 5 naman po is dh. Ayan. So, let's describe first yung ating domain. So, katulad po ng sinabi po natin kanina, lahat ng exponential function has the domain of all real numbers. At dito tayo magkakaiba, yung ating range. Yan. So, yan po yung ating rule sa pagkuha ng range. So, nakabase lang siya sa ating a. At ang 0.25 po is greater than 0. So, ibig sabihin, ito po yung rule ng ating range. Na in interval notation, ang range po natin is, ang h is 5. Ang range natin ay 5 to positive infinity. Or, in set notation, that is y such that y is greater than 5. Yeah, so ganun lang po yung range natin. Next naman. Ayan, yung y-intercept naman natin. So, it can be computed when x is equal to 0. And, of course, wala po tayong x-intercept. Ayan. So, automatic, wala tayong x-intercept kapag exponential function. Kahit anong form pa po. Pero, yung y-intercept, pwede po natin computin by evaluating our function at x is equal to 0. Okay? So, we have f of 0. Substitute lang, we have 0.25 times 3 raised to 0 minus 1 plus 5. Ayan. And 0.25 times 3. 0 minus 1 is negative 1 plus 5. And that will give us 0.25. 3 raised to negative 1 and 1 is 1/3. 1/3 plus 5. Didiretso na po natin sa calculator. We have, meron tayong 61 over 12. Or, that is 5, 1 over 2. Ayun. So, ito na po yung ating y-intercept. At, 61 over 12, 0. Diyan po tayo magkakaroon na point of intersection sa ating y-axis. Yan. Next naman yung ating horizontal asymptote. So, sabi po dito, ang horizontal asymptote natin is y is equal to h. Yan. At ang h po natin sa ating function is 5. So, ibig sabihin, ang horizontal asymptote po natin is y is equal to 5. So, ganun lang siya kadali. At, syempre, wala po tayong horizontal asymptote. Okay? So, ganun lang. Let's have example number 4. Example 4 naman tayo. Let's describe the properties of the exponential function f of x is equal to negative 0.5 or negative 1/2 times the base 3 with an exponent of x plus 2 then minus 4. So, kung titingnan po natin, ang ating a po dito is negative 0.5. Ito siya. At ang ating h naman dito is negative 4. So, let's determine the domain first. Ayan. So, madali lang. Domain is always the set of all real numbers. Pero, paano naman po yung range? Ayan. So, tingnan po natin. Since ang a natin is negative 0.5, so, ibig sabihin, less than 0 na po yun. So, ibig sabihin, ito po yung rule ng ating range. In interval notation, that is negative 4 to negative infinity. Or in set notation, that is y, such that y is less than negative 1. Ayan. So, ganun lang siya agad. So, paano naman po yung intercepts natin? So, madali lang po yung x-intercepts kasi wala po tayo naman. Pero yung y-intercept, i-compute lang natin when x is equal to 0. So, f of 0. We have negative 0.5 times 3, 0 plus 2 minus 4. Ayan. So, negative 0.5, 0 plus 2 is 2 minus 4. Ang 3 squared po natin is 9. Then, multiply natin sa negative 0.5. We have negative 4.5. Ayan. Minus 4 po natin, that will give us negative 8.5. So, ibig sabihin, ang y-intercept po natin is at 0, negative 8.5. So, ganun lang po. Okay. So, paano naman yung asymptotes natin? So, the horizontal asymptote is the line y is equal to h. Madali lang. So, since ang h po natin ay negative 4, so ibig sabihin ang horizontal asymptote po natin is y is equal to negative 4. At syempre, wala po tayong vertical asymptote. Okay? Right, so, it's your turn na po to try by yourself naman on how you construct table of values as well as to sketch our graph. Determine the domain, range, intercept, zeros, and asymptotes. Ayan, nakalimutan kong banggitin. Nakalimutan kong banggitin about zeros po. Since wala tayong x-intercept, so ibig sabihin po wala rin po tayong zeros. Yan. So, wala po tayong x-intercept, walang zeros, at walang vertical asymptote. At ito syempre. So, complete the following sentences to make it correct statement. Ang dinidescribe po natin dito ay yung ating basic exponential function. Yung wala pa pong transformation. Yan. So, yun po yung dinidescribe dito. So, this, fill in the blanks lang po yan. Ganun lang. So, that will be all for this video lesson about exponential function. Thank you for listening. Bye!